أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. Today we are going to start with verse number 17 of Surah Al-Araaf, which is the 7th surah or chapter of the Quran. ثم لآتينهم من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم ولا تجد أكثرهم شاكرين. Then I will come upon them from in front of them and from behind them and from their left and from their right, and you will not find most of them to be grateful. So who is talking here? This is the Shaitan, Satan. When God ordered him to leave paradise, he said, give me some respite, give me some time limit before I die, in which I'm going to show you what kind of creatures these people are, especially the human beings, whom you have put on such a high pedestal as to make me worship them or prostrate to them or perform sajda to them. So he says, I will come in front of them and from behind them and from their right and from their left, from the left and the right. So this almost covers all the directions, but still two directions are still left out. I found this in Al-Razi, it's a very interesting point that he makes. He says that Satan will not come upon them from above and below. So above and below, these are two directions which have been left out of this. Because the angels asked God how human beings could escape the onslaught of Satan. And God replied that two paths remained free and open, the ones above and the one below. When and if they raised their hands in prayers and supplications above them, so when you raise your hands above, you are asking for help from above, this is the direction in which Satan cannot do anything. Or prostrated and put their heads to the ground in humility, that is below them, and they would be able to find forgiveness and salvation. So this is an extremely interesting and important point which I have come across for the first time. So that means the only way in which human beings can be saved and not, be harmed by the clutches of Satan is by praying and also, of course, being humble and prostrating to God. قال اخرج منها مذءوما مدحورا لمن تبعك منهم لأملأن جهنم منكم أجمعين. God said, get out of here. You are contemptible and expelled. And those who follow you from them, I will fill up hell with them all. So, of course, his wrath is very angry with Satan. And he says, get out of here. Now, many commentators have got into a discussion about this. That, they say, how come if he was thrown out of the garden, how come he was able to tempt Adam and Eve? But according to some, the Iblis was thrown out of the garden, but he remained in paradise to tempt Adam and Eve later. And some think that this is the Garden of Eden from which he was thrown out. So here it is said, I will fill up hell with them. That means those who follow Iblis will be with him in hell. So God said, get out of here. And then he said, I will fill up hell with them all. Who are these all? They are the human beings who follow Satan and anyone who follows any evil person. All the evil persons that we know, or whoever, even if we don't know them, they are all followers of Satan. For example, Pharaoh, at the time of Hazrat Moses, it is said that when he goes to hell, all the people, his courtiers and his nation and all the people who followed him and treated him like God, they will all follow him in hell. وَيَا آدَمُ اسْكُنْ أَنْتَ وَزَوْجُكَ الْجَنَّةَ فَكُلَا مِنْ حَيْثُ شِئْتُمَا وَلَا تَقْرَبَا هَٰذِهِ الشَّجَرَةَ فَتَكُونَا مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. And to Adam he said, O Adam, stay you and your spouse in paradise and eat from wherever you please, but do not go near this tree, or you will become of the transgressors. So this is the first time that Adam's spouse is being mentioned. And her name is not mentioned in the Quran, but we from tradition we know that she is called Hawa in the Islamic tradition and Eve in the Christian tradition. And there is no mention made of the origin of Hawa. So far, Adam represented all of humanity, both male and female, in his vicegerency and in divinely granted knowledge and the prostration of the angels before him. In this, we learn that he was all by himself. And only now we hear about Eve. But in Surah Al-Nisa, I'd like to read this out to you. Verse number 1 in Surah Al-Nisa, the women. It is said, O people, fear your Lord, He who created you from a single cell. From خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. Nafs has been translated in many different ways. It has been translated as a cell, as a person, a soul, a life, ego, conscience, etc. So the majority prefer the word person. And Zoj means one of a pair. So here it means that human beings are created out of their own kind. So this does not clearly say that Hawa was created from Adam's rib, but it implies that human beings were created from the same cell, from the same person. Here it says, He created you from the same nafs. خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. Some people have interpreted it to mean that all human beings were created from the same parents. They all have the same forefather. So God said to Adam, O Adam, stay you and your spouse in paradise and eat from wherever you please. But do not go near this tree or you will become of the transgressors. So one tree was made an exception, and this was like a trial or a test for Hazrat Adam a.s. This tree, what is this tree? According to the Quran, later on we'll find in Surah number 20, it's called the tree of everlastingness or the tree of eternity. That if you eat from that tree, then you would become everlasting. And in the Bible, it is known as the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is given in Genesis, the book of Genesis, chapter 2 and 17th verse. So, what is the meaning of transgressors? We come across this word so often. All you will become of the transgressors. The transgressors are those who cross the limit. If you have been told to stay within this limit, and if you cross it, then that person becomes a transgressor. In the Arabic, the word is zalimeen. Normally, we think of zalim as someone who's being cruel to somebody, but it also means somebody who does not know his limits. And Karam Shah thinks that the one who is a transgressor is always harming himself. And about Iblis, how did he manage to tempt Adam? Some commentators think that he had the powers to whisper to them from the earth. He had been given the power to whisper to them. Now these are all, guesses. There's no proof about these things. And so many different explanations. Some commentators think that he met Adam at the gate. He was able to tell what was going on inside the garden. And he met Adam at the gate. And others think that he entered the body of a snake and he tried to tempt Adam. Hazrat Hasan Basri is the one who thinks that he had the powers to whisper to them from the earth. Now, the next verse, number 20, you will notice that this is in the dual number. In all languages, or at least the few languages that I know that there is a singular number and a plural number. But in Arabic, there is also a dual number, 2. So when you're addressing two people, then the words change. فَوَسْوَسَ لَهُمَا الشَّيْطَانُ لِيُبْدِيَ لَهُمَا مَا أُرِيَ عَنْهُمَا مِنْ سَوْآتِهِمَا وَقَالَ مَا نَهَاكُمَا رَبُّكُمَا عَنْ هَٰذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَا مَلَكَيْنِ أَوْ تَكُونَا مِنَ الْخَالِدِينَ. So what I'm trying to point out here is that this whole verse is in the dual number. This is because both Adam and his spouse, maybe Hawa or Eve, is being talked about. Now, from the biblical tradition, we learn that it was Eve who was tempted first by Satan, and then she tempted her husband to eat that fruit. But in the Quran we find that both are treated equally in this respect. When God says, stay you and your spouse in paradise, both of them are addressed. And then when they were tempted, then the dual number is used. So what did Satan whisper to them? Whisper to them both so as to reveal to them what had been concealed from them of their shame. So it seems that eating from that tree would take away the nur or the light of innocence which had covered them so far. Both of them were quite innocent and unaware, just like little children, of their bodies, of their private parts, and of sex, until they ate of the forbidden tree, the fruit of the forbidden tree. And before this, the nur or the glorious light had covered their shame. And in another place in the Quran it says they will experience no nakedness, hunger, thirst, or heat. So eating from that tree exposed them to their own shame. And later on we find that they felt so ashamed that they started covering their bodies with the leaves of the trees. So Satan said to them that the reason why you have been forbidden to eat from this tree is because you both have been forbidden by your Lord to eat from this tree, prevent you from becoming two angels or becoming of the immortals. That means that you will never die, the tree of eternity. This is given in Surah Al-Araaf, that this was supposed to be the tree of eternity. And in the Bible, in Genesis, it says the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It seems that it could be both these things because all this became apparent to them.
وَقَاسَمَهُمَا إِنِّي لَكُمَا مِنَ النَّاصِحِينَ.
He swore in front of them, indeed I am sincere to you both. So he's taking a false oath and he's raising false hopes and promises. This was Satan's tactic to encourage people, to create some kind of hope in them, to do something wrong. And again, qasamahuma and nilakuma, all this is again in the dual number.
فَدَلَّاهُمَا بِغُرُورٍ فَلَمَّا ذَاقَا الشَّجَرَةَ بَدَتْ لَهُمَا سَوْآتُهُمَا وَاتَّفِقَا يَخْصِفَانِ عَلَيْهِمَا مِنْ وَرَقِ الْجَنَّةِ وَنَادَاهُمَا رَبُّهُمَا أَلَمْ أَنْهَكُمَا عَنْ تِلْكُمَا الشَّجَرَةِ وَأَقُلْ لَكُمَا إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمَا عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ.
So this is a continuation of the dual number. They both fell by his connivance when they tasted of the tree. And of course it means the fruit of the tree. Their shame was revealed to them and they started covering themselves with the leaves of the garden. Then their Lord called out to them, did I not forbid you both from this tree and tell you that Shaitan is your open enemy? Now, according to Allama Ulusi, 5 things could have been the cause of Adam's salvation or were the cause of his salvation because after he had committed this wrong, he admitted it. He was very regretful. And of course, the second point is that he regretted what he had done. The third is that he indulged in self-blame. He did not say, Shaitan said this to me, so what can I do? A lot of people do this. They do whatever they want to do and then they blame the person who had asked them to do it. But actually, they should take individual responsibility. So he said, no, it's my fault. So that is self-blame. And then he repented. And then Adam had hope in the mercy of God. And we also know that not having hope in the mercy of God is being like an unbeliever. So they wronged themselves because they were disobedient and they alienated themselves from God, but then they also had all these feelings of guilt and they wanted to make up for it.
قَالَا رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ.
They both said, again, both of them are apologizing together. They both said, O our Lord, we have greatly wronged ourselves, and if you do not forgive us and have mercy on us, we will become of the losers. So being a little disobedient, this had taught them the difference between right and wrong, and they learned from their mistake. So this is the difference between Satan and between this human being, that they learned from their mistakes, they wanted to make amends. But Shaitan insisted that what he had done was the right thing to do. So these are the words with which Adam and Hawa apologize.
قالا ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين.
That means, oh our Lord, we have greatly wronged ourselves. Zalamna anfusana, that means we have wronged our own selves, and if you do not forgive us and have mercy on us, we will become of the losers. So they felt that disobedience had alienated them from God, so they wanted to make up for it. And it's not mentioned here, but these words of apologies came to Adam after a long time. He just kept worrying about it and wondering how he could apologize. And in the end, God taught him the words to apologize with.
قال اهبطوا بعضكم لبعض عدو ولكم في الأرض مستقر ومتاع إلى حين.
That is, God said, descend, ebitu, get down, descend. You will be each other's enemy. You will abide on the earth, a place to stay and to enjoy up to an appointed time. So whose enemy is who? So Adam, Eve and their progeny, that is all human beings, and Satan will be each other's enemies, as well as all those followers of Satan. There will be a constant tussle between all these people. Some people have taken this to mean, not any commentators, but somebody I knew, and she thought that this means that men and women will be each other's enemies. I don't think that's true, but of course some of them might be, but this doesn't mean that. That means generally there will be a lot of enmity on the earth, which we can see for ourselves. Now this point I missed that in verse number 20, that Satan says to prevent you from becoming two angels or becoming of the immortals. Now Satan has no power to compel human beings. He has no authority over the believers. So that means he can just whisper to them. That means the word in Arabic is waswasa. So he can just create these wrong thoughts, put these wrong thoughts in their mind. And even before the fall, it is said that Adam and Eve had a free will. We always say that human beings have a free will. They have been given a choice. If they want to, they can follow this path. If they want to, they can follow the other path. And this is the reason why they are held accountable. Because they did whatever they did it willfully. So this is why they are accountable. So also it is said that the jinns are also held accountable. But here it is said that even before the fall from paradise, Adam and Eve had a free will. This is the reason why they chose to eat from that tree, even though they could have prevented themselves from doing it. And we also know that because of this disobedience, the nur or light was removed from them. And it created in Adam humility and the desire to please God. And also the awareness of the need to apologize and the sweetness of the aftertaste when the apology is accepted. They also realize their love for God and also to have the desire to have eternal life and the desire to be free from human needs, example, food, etc. And according to Muhammad Asad, they had the desire to become like God, that immortal. They had the desire to become immortal. That is why they were tempted. And the Sufis always have a slightly different point of view. They emphasize the merciful aspect of the fall of Adam and Eve, because their disobedience led to an opportunity to earn a high spiritual station and to move closer to God after being distanced. So that means they can earn an even higher station by living in this world and doing all the right things, the things that we have been asked to do.
قال فيها تحيون وفيها تموتون ومنها تخرجون.
He also said, here you will live and here you will die, and from here you will be raised again. So human beings, we know, will live on this earth as long as they are supposed to live, and then after that they will die and be raised from here to heaven. Some commentators also like to say that through this fall, God shows His attributes. His attributes that came into force were those of Al-Ghafur. Ghafur is the most forgiving, and Al-Ghaffar is the most forgiving. And Al-Mujib is the acceptor of prayer. And Al-Rahim is the ever merciful, and Al-Rahman is the most merciful. And At-Tawwab is also one who accepts the Tawbah or the apology. And Adam was given the opportunity to express repentance, humility, and knowing that there is no escape except in God. If one wants to run away, one has to run back to God. There is no other way one can run away. And also realizing that throughout this life, one can continuously strive for perfection by being humble and repentant. So, I always say that the purpose of following a religion is to strive for perfection. And that is, of course, spiritual perfection.
Ya bani Adama qad anzalna alaykum libasan yuwari sawatikum warisha wa libasut taqwa zalika khair. Zalika min ayatillahi la'allahum yazzakkarun.
O children of Adam, so when the Quran says, Ya bani Adama, children of Adam, it means all of humanity, all of mankind. We sent for you clothes which serve to conceal your shame as well as adorn. But the dress of piety is the best dress of all. These are the signs of God so that they would remember. So, even clothes are a blessing from God. They are meant for, serve to conceal your shame, that is the hiding of nakedness, as well as clothing for adornment. So you see, when people try to wear good clothes, there is nothing wrong with it because God Himself says that the clothes are supposed to conceal your shame as well as to adorn. But the dress of piety is the best dress of all. What is the dress of piety? See, when a person becomes pious, the word for piety here is libasut taqwa. Taqwa has been defined as pious, or muttaqi is pious, or God conscious, fearful of God, and careful awareness of God. Yes, but actually, when you look at many translations, most of them just say muttaqi is one who's afraid of God. But I prefer either loving God so much that one is afraid to annoy Him, but that's a very long definition, or God conscious, or pious. So the dress of piety means when a person becomes pious, his whole personality changes. He becomes covered with a nur or glorious light. Besides the physical dress which hides his shame properly, his thoughts, emotions, desires and wishes, even his gaze, the way he look at another person, especially a person of the opposite sex, even that changes. And his taste in food and the quantities he consumes of everything, food, clothes, money, whatever he has, the way he spends them, that also changes when he becomes pious. And the time he spends in worship and devotion, of course, then he likes to spend most of his time in worship and devotion. And people say, why don't you go for a vacation? And that person says, vacation will do me no good. I'm on a vacation here. I'm as relaxed as I can be anywhere else. So all these things change, then practices change in everyday life. Whatever he does, that changes. His zikr or remembrance, the few formulae that he recites, they also change and they multiply. Then his complete trust in God, that is also taqwa. That he says, even if the worst thing happens to him, he will say, no, there must be some God's wisdom in this, and I'm sure there's some good in it. So he trusts God completely, so that nothing perturbs this person. And he believes in Inna Allaha basirun bil ibad. That means, indeed, God watches over His devotees, His creatures. You know what it means that God watches us? That means He takes care of us. And also he believes that there must be some good in everything that happens. Even if a person is doing something wrong to somebody, then that person might be, earning some punishment for himself, but the person who is suffering is earning reward.
Ya bani Adama la yaftinannakum ash-shaytanu kama akhraja abawaykum min al-jannati yanzi'u anhuma libasahuma liyuriyahuma sawatihima innahu yarakum huwa wa qabiluhu min haythu la tarawnahum Inna ja'alna shaytana awliya lillazina la yu'minun.
O children of Adam, again this is the second time in the same chapter we come across Ya Bani Adama, O children of Adam, that means O mankind. Be careful so that Shaitan does not get you into trouble the way he had your parents expelled from the garden and had their clothes stripped from them so as to reveal to them their shame. As he as well as his tribe sees you from where you do not see them. Indeed, we have made the devils the friends of those who do not believe. So here the Quran says about he as well as his tribe. Whose tribe? The tribe of Shaitan. That means we also come across in the Quran that Kana minal jinni. This is about Shaitan, that he was of the jinns. And so his tribe sees us means that all the jinns can see us, but we cannot see them all the time. Except if they choose to expose themselves to us, then only can we see them. They can also change their form whenever they want to. They can also possess people. They have all these attributes. Now there are some people who do not believe in jinns at all. But I think that if one believes in the Quran, then one has to believe in the jinns, because throughout the Quran so much mention is made of the jinns, and also there's a whole surah, a whole chapter by the name of Surah Al-Jinn. According to Allama Razi, they have subtle bodies. That means they don't have bodies like us, which are, tangible, which can be seen and heard, but they can just disappear whenever they want to. It's like, seeing one of the science fiction movies. They just disappear and they reappear whenever they want to. And also, according to Allama Zamakhshari, they also have very subtle tactics. That means they do not come and tell us openly or order us to do something, but they put all these devious thoughts in our minds. And it is also, here it is said, Ja'alna shayatina awliya'a lillazina la yu'minun. Awliya means friends. So the Satans or devils, they become friends of human beings or people, and they incite people to practice sorcery or black magic and to argue with the believers against their faith. So they become awliya al-shaitan as opposed to awliya Allah. Instead of becoming awliya Allah, friends of Allah, human beings sometimes turn into awliya shaitan. So here it is said, we have made the devils the friends of those who do not believe. Now, some people argue, if God has made the devils the friends of the unbelievers, then how can we blame the unbelievers for whatever they do? But here, actually the meaning is God lets them do whatever they want to do. They have been given a choice. So God does not force them to come to the right track.
وَإِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً قَالُوا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهَا آبَاءَنَا اللَّهُ أَمَرَنَا بِهَا قُلْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ أَتَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ.
Who say when they commit an obscenity or transgression, we found our fathers on it, and God has also ordered us to follow it. Say, God does not command obscenity. Do you attribute to God what you do not know? So those who do not follow the religion fully, or they do something obscene or immoral, then they say we found our fathers on it, that is why, and also God has ordered us to do this act. So this is especially referring to the word in Arabic here for obscenity is fahishatan. It is mostly used for sexual transgression, but all types of immorality comes under fahishatan. For example, before Islam, people had changed all the rituals of the Hajj, and they had started performing the tawaf in the nude, the circulation or circumambulation of the Kaaba, the tawaf. Both men and women used to come at night in the nude. And they said, this is what we found our forefathers to be doing. Therefore, we also have to keep on doing this. And some of them also said that this is an injunction from God. And this excuse, some commentators say, is inexcusable because of the primordial covenant of knowing God to be their Lord. You remember we had come up, it is in the same Surah Al-Araaf, verses number 172, 173. And God ordered all this is before the primordial, that is before time, before Adam came to the earth. all the rules, all the souls of all the people who were going to be created on earth, they were asked to come, and then God asked them, "Am I not your Lord?" And they all said Bala, which means yes, of course. So this is supposed to be somewhere in the subconscious mind of all human beings. That is why there is a need for everyone to believe in some deity.
قل أمر ربي بالقسط وأقيموا وجوهكم عند كل مسجد وادعوه مخلصين له الدين كما بدأكم تعودون.
Say, my Lord has commanded justice, and that you should focus your direction, that is, prayer towards the Kaaba, at the time of each prayer. Call out to Him, reserving worship for Him alone. As He had created you, so you will be raised. Now here it is said, first the word is Qul, say, this is addressed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whenever he has to answer somebody, Quran says, say this to them, Qul. My God has commanded justice. Now, justice, of course, in the common sense, to be just to everybody, to give people their rights. It also means to maintain a balance in belief and practice and worship God without including anyone in the worship. This is also being just. And also, since we have been asked to face the Kaaba, that is what we're supposed to do. And then to call out to Him. Wad'uhu comes from the word dua. Calling out is a dua, reserving worship for Him alone. That means do not commit shirk. As He had created you, so you will be raised. So people found it very difficult to believe in resurrection. And this is why God is saying here, as He had created you, God created human beings from nothing in the beginning, and therefore He will create you again. He can resurrect you again. It is within His powers. There is also a hadith which says people will be resurrected in exactly the same condition as they were born the first time. Now, dua is a word in Arabic which is often translated as prayer. A prayer is something which has so many different meanings. They all come under one word. It can mean your daily obligatory prayers. It can mean your voluntary prayers. It can mean the dua or the supplication. All these things come under prayer. But dua is something when you are asking for something. It's not necessarily the obligatory prayer. So here we are being asked that, وَادْعُوهُ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. Call out to God, pray to Him, make dua, reserving worship for Him alone. Of course, when we call out to somebody in this world, please help us with this, we do not treat that person like God. We just think that he is in a position in which he can help us. But it is also made very clear that we should be clear that we can only ask God in reality. In reality, He is the only mujib. He is the only one who can answer prayers. But the other person who's sitting there is his vicegerent. He is supposed to do the work that he has been asked to do in this world.
فريقا هدى وفريقا حق عليهم الضلالة إنهم اتخذوا الشياطين والأولياء من دون الله ويحسبون أنهم مهتدون.
A group has been guided, and the other group is the one who is bound to lose its way, for they had adopted the devils as their friends in the place of God. Yet they are under the impression that they are rightly guided. Everybody thinks, no matter what kind of faith he is following, everybody thinks that he is on the right path. So here it says a group has been guided. This takes us back to that question. If God has guided somebody, then why that person, need to be rewarded? That is because that person was guided because he was looking for the right path. He did not intend to go on the wrong path. So therefore, when he received the guidance, he accepted it. So many people are taught the Quran, but some people just don't believe in it, even those who have been born in a Muslim family. So the one who is looking for something good and the one who accepts the teachings of God sent through the prophets, they are the ones who are guided. I'm sorry to say, but some prominent commentators keep on saying this, that God can guide whomever He wants to and He can mislead whomever He wants. God does not mislead. God lets that person take his own path. So because they had adopted the devils as their friends in the place of God. This is the reason why. That means whatever place one ends up in the end, that is the consequence of his own doings, of his own deeds. And those who made the right use of their choice and also used their minds and intelligence were guided aright, while those who subjected their choice to satanic forces, they were allowed to go their way. Ya Bani Adama, again, this is the third time on the same page. O children of Adam, O mankind, O humanity.
Ya Bani Adama, khuzu zinatakum inda kulli masjidin wa kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. Innahu la yuhibbul musrifin.
O children of Adam, adorn yourselves with your clothes at the time of each prayer. So this is something, our clothes are something that we should feel proud of, that we are able to give ourselves this blessing from God. And here some commentators say that this means physical adornment as well as moral and spiritual adornment at the time of each prayer, and eat and drink. That means do not be wasteful. That means God has created all these foods in the world, and He does not want people to become ascetics and to give up all the good things in life. But this here is especially referring to the Makkans, people of Makkah, who had made up, with the passage of time, they had made up their own rituals and their own rules. And they said you have to give up meat, fat and milk during the Hajj when you are in the state of haram. And also they came up with something, since they were the people taking care of the Kaaba and, giving water to the pilgrims and all these things, they went a little further and said that you can perform Hajj only in the clothes given to you by the Makkans, and you can eat only the food given to you by the Makkans. And I'm just guessing, but I'm sure they were trying to make some money out of it. And of course, since they had control of everything, people believed them. And of course, they sort of said that this was God's command. And this was stated by Allama Qurtubi, that the Makkans made these rules. And they said that otherwise, if you don't take the clothes and the food from the Makkans, then otherwise they could neither wear any clothes nor eat any food. So I guess some people could not afford to take clothes from the Makkans. Then they said, okay, let's do it without any clothes at all. And that's how they started this practice of doing the tawaf in the nude. Of course, there are spiritual and physical benefits in eating less, and there are rules that, even today, there are rules that when you go for a Hajj and you're in a state of ihram, then you don't eat the foods with a strong aroma. You don't apply perfumes, and you also don't eat foods which have a strong aroma. And whether that aroma is good or bad, even like eating raw onions and all, is forbidden. And eating less always has some physical and spiritual benefits. So here people are being asked to follow all the rules, only the rules which have been made by God and taught by the prophets. And God does not like the wasters. Of course, wasting means using up too much of something. It can also mean, going to another extreme.
قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ قُلْ هِيَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا خَالِصَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ.
Ask, who has forbidden the adornment provided by God for His devotees and the pure and clean food? Say, they are for the believers in the life of this world and exclusively for them in the hereafter. This is how we expound our revelations for those who know the truth. So adornment is the dress of the believer, it is said, fulfills a dual purpose. Besides the obvious one of hiding his shame, also helps to add beauty and attraction to his personality, and also gives him a chance to express himself. Now, why are we saying that this is for the believer? This is true for everyone, but adornment can also be a kind of a spiritual adornment, because this word is supposed to include luxuries and all the good food, good clothing, eating meat, owning property, or using perfume, and even having children. Some people who became ascetics, they gave up all these things. Once some very prominent companions of the Prophet decided that they would become ascetics. They would not go to their wives, they would not eat good food, they would not wear good clothes and so on, and they would do nothing but worship and spend their time in devotion. And then the Prophet called them and said, this is not my way. You are supposed to follow my example. And I eat simple food, but at times I also eat good food. I wear simple clothes, but at times I also wear good clothes. And I also go to my wives because that is their right. So here it is said, they are for the believers in the life of this world and exclusively for them in the hereafter, which means that the adornment, the luxuries of paradise, of course, will be for the believers. And the non-believers used to criticize the believers for wearing clothes during tawaf and eating meat and fat. So all that is being answered here. And Imam Razi also says that the best clothes, the best food, the best ride. In those days they had an animal for a ride, and today you can say that you have these cars, etc. And the best house, as long as it is not haram. Whatever you are consuming or using should not be haram. And also there is no harm in one's doing business and earning a lot of money, but the thing is that one should use it in a proper way. And on the other hand, whatever one is consuming, whether it is your clothes or your food or whatever your house that you have made, all these should have been made from halal money. It should not have been. The earning should be halal. It is reported by Hazrat Aisha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, that once, the Prophet was in his room and some people were waiting outside to meet him. So the Prophet got up and he fixed his amama, that is his hairdress, turban, fixed his hair and his beard, and he tried to look proper before he went out. So Aisha said, Ya Rasulullah, you also pay attention to these things, like you have such a high spiritual station, so why are you worried about these little things? And he said, Allahu Jamilun wa yuhibbul jamal. That means God is beautiful and He loves beauty. So that means all the good things in life are halal, except if they were acquired through haram means, or if the wealth that you have earned, some people earn halal income when they use it for haram means. All that is forbidden.
قل إنما حرم ربي الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن والإثم والبغي بغير الحق وأن تشركوا بالله ما لم ينزل به سلطانا وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون.
Say, indeed, my Lord has forbidden obscenity, whether it be obvious or hidden, and sin and rebellion without cause, and that you should assign partners to God for which He has not sent down any proof, and that you should say about God what you do not know. Now here the word rebellion has been used for the Arabic word baghya, forbidden obscenity, and sin and rebellion. So rebellion has been described as tyranny, oppression, and also arrogance. So all these things are forbidden. And of course, shirk is the first thing, that you should assign partners to God, for which He has not sent down any proof. That God has not sent any proof, and if people are saying this is what God said, then that is slandering God. Iftara is the word in Arabic, and that again is forbidden. And that you say about God what you do not know, that means fabricating against God. Again, it means iftara.
وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ أَجَلٌ فَإِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهُمْ لَا يَسْتَأْخِرُونَ سَاعَةً وَلَا يَسْتَقْدِمُونَ.
For every nation is a time fixed, so when the appointed time approaches, they can neither move back a moment nor move forward. So what is the time fixed? The time to live in this world is fixed for everybody. But there are some hadiths in which it is said that if a person wants to prolong his life, that means the time fixed can also be changed if God so wills. And if a person wants to prolong his life, then he should be good to his relatives and, of course, do all the things that he's supposed to do. And then if God thinks that by living longer in this world, you are also increasing your rewards, then it will become a blessing for you to live longer. But for people who are continuously doing the wrong things, and their lifespan is increased, then they are just earning more and more punishment. So, harama Fawahisha, harrama rabbi al-fawahisha, that means forbidden obscenity. Obscenity we normally think of, immoral acts, but it covers a lot of other things. One place in the Quran, it says that, if your neighbor is going hungry, and you are having lots of, plenty of good food, and you know that neighbor is going hungry, and by neighbor is meant anyone that you come across, that you know, then that has also been called a fahashi. So some commentators have described, Qurtubi especially has described obscenity or fawahisha as zina and intoxicating drinks and, crossing the limits of, giving pain to somebody, and shirk and iftara, that is signing something to God which God did not command.
وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ أَجَلٌ فَإِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهُمْ لَا يَسْتَأْخِرُونَ سَاعَةً وَلَا يَسْتَقْدِمُونَ.
Yes, we just read this. For every nation is a time fixed. So when the appointed time approaches, they can neither move back a moment nor move forward. So when God has finalized that time in this world, then no one can change it. If somebody is ill, all the relatives and the people who care for that person run around to get some kind of cure for that person. But once that person is dead, then they just say, there is nothing we can do. That is what is meant by that. They can neither move back a moment nor move forward. They cannot change anything.
Ya bani Adam, imma ya'tiyannakum rusulun minkum yaqussuna alaykum ayati faman ittaqa wa aslaha fala khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun.
O children of Adam, whenever there come to you messengers from among yourselves who relate to you our revelations, then for those who fear God and reform themselves, there will neither be any fear nor will they grieve. So here again, we are being told that going to heaven or hell, or believing or not, or becoming a believer or becoming a disbeliever, that has been left as a choice for human beings, also for the jinns. Here it is said to you, messengers from among yourselves. This is because the prophets, the messengers, were always appointed from the nation to which they were appointed. No foreigner came and said, I am your prophet. This did not happen. And then when that nation started, some of them started accepting the faith, then they were supposed to go out and teach other people.
وَالَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا عَنْهَا أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ.
Those who denied our revelations and looked down on them, they are the dwellers of the fire and will remain in it forever. In the last verse 35, it says in the end, then for those who fear God and reform themselves, there will be neither any fear nor will they grieve. We have done this several times before, but I like to repeat it. Fear is about the future, something that has not happened yet, but might happen. And in the Quran, it mostly refers to the fear of being punished in hellfire. So the people who reform themselves, they will neither have fear about the future, about the hellfire, nor will they grieve. That is about the past. One grieves about the past. Why did I not do such and such a thing before? Why did I waste so much time? And I sometimes feel that the punishment in hell will also be this punishment of grief, of, regret that I wasted so much time in this life. I did not do what I was supposed to do. So those who denied our revelations and looked down on them, they are the dwellers of the fire and will remain in it forever. Here again, the reason is given why people will go into the hellfire, because they denied the revelations and looked down on them. Mostly, people used to make fun of the prophets and also give them all kinds of trouble. And looking down, of course, means that you are being arrogant. So they were too arrogant to accept the proofs and the guidance of the revelations which were brought by the prophets.
فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَىٰ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا أَوْ كَذَّبَ بِآيَاتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يَنَالُهُمْ نَصِيبُهُمْ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَتْهُمْ رُسُلُنَا يَتَوَفَّوْنَهُمْ قَالُوا أَيْنَ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ قَالُوا ضَلُّوا عَنَّا وَشَهِدُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ أَنَّهُمْ كَانُوا كَافِرِينَ.
So who can be more of a transgressor than the one who slanders God and denies His revelations? they will receive the share ordained from them. So what is the share that is being spoken about here? It is the share in this world. People who might be the greatest enemies of God and the greatest enemies of His prophets and the greatest enemies of the believers might still be very prosperous in this world. That is because God says that they will receive the share ordained for them, that means in this world. And because the judgment is not being given out in this world, the judgment will be given in the next world. Because in this world we are given a time to improve ourselves. So they will receive the share ordained for them until those sent by us who come to them to take away their souls, that is, the angels of death, will say, "Where are those whom you worshipped instead of God?" If they were doing shirk or practicing polytheism, then the angels will ask them, "Now, where are all those gods that you worshipped?" And they will answer, "We have lost them." That means we can't find them anymore. And will give testimony against themselves that they were unbelievers. So they will admit. So all the idols and Satan and all the partners that they worshipped, all these, and also, some people worship the sun and the stars, and some people worship the trees and other animals. So all these things will disappear that day when the angels come to take their soul away. And also in Surah Hamim Sajda, you find verses 20 to 22 that the parts of the body will testify against the sinner. Now, in this world, we don't think that, our mouth or our ears and our hands and all these parts of the body will start speaking against us. But on the day of judgment, if a person denies, "No, I did not see this," or "I did not do this," then the parts of the body will speak against him and testify.
قالت خلوا في قد خلت من قبلكم من الجن والإنس في النار كلما دخلت لعنت أختها حتى إذا اداركوا فيها جميعا قالت أخراهم لأولاهم ربنا هؤلاء أضلونا فآتهم عذابا ضعفا من النار قال لكل ضعف ولكن لا تعلمون.
God will say, this is also about the hereafter, "Enter with the nations who have gone before you of the jinns and humans in the fire." So you notice here that only the jinns and the human beings are being asked to go. Jinne wal inse, these two genres are asked to go into the fire, those who will go to hell, because only these two creatures have been given a choice, free will, from, which they can either use well or misuse. Whenever a nation enters, it will curse the other until all have gathered in it. The last one to enter will say for the former ones, "O our Lord, they are the ones who misguided us, so give them double punishment of the fire." God will say, "For each one is double, but you do not know." So here these people will be ordered, "Enter with the nations who have gone before you and of the jinns and the humans in the fire." So whenever a nation enters, it will curse the ones that went before, until all have gathered. Why will they curse the others? Because they think the later ones will curse the former ones, because they will say that these are the people who misguided us. They must be the followers, and they will be blaming their leaders or unjust leaders. And according to Imam Jafar Sadiq, this is about the unjust leaders who, did all kinds of wrong things and made, like Pharaoh used to make them do sajda to him, say, "I am God." Also, it means blaming elders and earlier generations of the community for religious transgressions. They'll say, "Why did my grandfather follow this and why did I follow him?" Following their father's practices. But actually, God has given human beings a free will, which means every individual has a free will, and he should use it to make the right decision. So they will say, the last one to enter will say for the former ones, "O our Lord, they are the ones who misguided us, so give them double punishment of the fire." So they are saying that, give them one punishment for their own disbelief and the other for misguiding the others and preventing them from following the right path. So the leader's double punishment will not lessen that of the followers. If the leaders are given double punishment, it means that the followers will not be given less punishment. And God says, for each one is double. Now we had read earlier that the reward will be multiplied, but the punishment will not be multiplied. But here the punishment is being multiplied. For each one is double, but you do not know. Now why is it said here that the punishment will be doubled? This will be firstly for transgressing, not believing, and doing all the wrong things, following Satan, and secondly for misguiding other people. So in that way, those people who did both these things, they will have a double punishment.
وقالت أولاهم لأخراهم فما كان لكم علينا من فضل فذوقوا العذاب بما كنتم تكسبون.
Former will say to the later ones, you have no advantage over us, so taste the punishment of what you used to do. So the leaders, or the ones who went before, all the fathers and forefathers will say that you have no advantage over us, because if we were doing something wrong, you were also doing something wrong. And you rejected the true invitation and you accepted the false invitation. So people will keep trying to blame others and not to accept the blame for themselves.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وادخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين ثم آمين. Thank you everyone for joining us, and inshallah we'll see you again next week. Allah Hafiz.